Hello, welcome to the studio. This week it's a studio vlog, so I am working on some prints which you may have seen on other videos or on Instagram of their dry points inspired by my trip to Skye, and I've brought them back to the home studio and I'm collaging and monoprinting and maybe a bit of drawing as well. So if you like the video, do please click like, subscribe to the channel. There's lots more to see at ruthander.co.uk. You can join my mailing list and you can get emails every month all about hand printing. You can buy a self-paced video course if you wish from that there, and you can buy artwork as well. So it's ruthander.co.uk.
So these are the pieces that I'm going to be working on today. These are dry points. They have Collage, so the sort of colour, any colour in them is basically coloured tissue paper that's been collaged in as they've gone through the printing press, and these have gone through a printing press. This was the first one to go through, and I actually wanted this area to be a bit darker, so after that print I scratched a lot more into the dry point plate and printed again. So I prefer those ones, I think. And this one here, this went through the press. The glue has run a little bit, the glue from the Seascape collage. So I'm probably, because sometimes I don't mind that, but I think I'll probably cover that up with some collage over the top or possibly some monoprint. I've already been looking at pieces of collage that I can add in. So this one may go on here. Quite subtle. I actually really like these pieces as they are. I feel like they could probably do with maybe just a little something extra. So I'm going to start with a little bit of collage and then I will build up to perhaps adding a little bit of monoprint as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is some collage, and that is often my first go-to actually when I'm looking at pieces. It's going to be quite a subtle collage for the most part, and I'm using my rice glue or nori paste here. And this is what it looks like when you just pop it out. It's quite starchy, not too wet. And I've already spent a bit of time planning out what collage I want to do, so I'm not doing this on the wing. I do tend to spend a good chunk of time just getting a lot of my collage papers out, choosing what I want, cutting down, trying things out. I mean, that is the great thing about collage, is that you don't have to make any major decisions, you know, until you sort of tried things out, and then when you do, it can really change a piece quite dramatically. Although in this case I am going for fairly subtle collage to start with, because I actually really like these as they are. I just want to add a little bit more of a light, a little bit more dark perhaps where I haven't got it, perhaps just a complementary colour. So this piece is quite a subtle piece, but I just want to cover up these where the glue has run a little bit. So sometimes it's very difficult to tell how much glue to put on your Collage, and sometimes I put a bit too much in or on, and as it goes through the press, which is very pressurized, obviously it's a lot of weight essentially, it squeezes the glue out, and this is what you get. Just check. So I stick this down, so I stick it colour side up. So this piece of tissue already has some oil paint monoprint on it. This is a sort of edge that I've cut off for something else, I can't remember what. And so you can sort of slightly feel which side the ink is on, even though it's quite thin. It's actually oil paint, I shouldn't say ink. And I'm just making sure that all my edges are down here. I don't mind too much about going over the edges with my glue, because this glue is very it's very matte, so it doesn't show up too much even when it's dry. just put a little bit there. Ooh. Okay, and one thing you can do, and I'm going to do it for this video, we've got quite a bit of wrinkles going on here. I'm just going to get a piece of plastic, a plastic bag, and just press out those wrinkles as much as I can. So this is probably my most dramatic piece of collage. I'm not very keen on this. This was my first one where I hadn't really added much darkness to the dry point plate itself. So I'm going to add a bit more drama with some colour here. So this is going to involve quite a bit of glue. It's very hot here today, so the glue is actually drying really quickly, which isn't so great for things like this. So I'm just trying to get it on as quickly as I can, get the piece of collage stuck on, and then I can sort of sort out the edges afterwards. And you can see here the transparency of the tissue, but also how transparent it goes when the glue is on it as well. So you can see, you can pretty much see through it. Just going to put a bit more glue on here. And all it's really changing is the colour. I think this is drying so quickly. It's quite difficult to get it all done. So this already had the paper, tissue paper already had marks on it. So I've got videos, previous videos that show you just how, sometimes I just have a little session where I just make tissue paper monoprints, just really loose, free and easy, specifically for this type of thing. And then other times I'll just use, I mean, I think this is a piece that I've cut off something else, perhaps when I'm making mixed media work, perhaps when I'm working on other prints. So some pieces of collage are quite intentional, and others are happy accidents that just work well with what I have. Just make sure this is sticking properly. There we go. And we've got a big wrinkle there. Let's unwrinkle that. There we go. And I'll just use my piece of plastic to try and get as many wrinkles out as possible. So my top tip for letting these dry, but dry flat, and just before I do this, I'm just going to make sure my corners are done. And they're often the bits that aren't glued down. Right, okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put each of these back to back and then slide them into my big plastic bag here, which I think originally had paper in. And then same again with these two. I'm going to pop those onto the plastic. So I've got 4 pieces in there, and then I'm going to slide them. This is a big piece of plastic I have here, which is what I use for my monoprinting. I'm going to slide them underneath. I can do that without the camera falling off. There we go. And I will leave those there. So I'm going to add some rain by drawing onto the back of a piece here. Although actually when I roll this ink out, I actually just really like it as it is. Let's try a bit of both. So what I'm going to do is
I've got this piece here and I want to add some darkness to this area. So if I place it on, and I will use my Baron, I think, to just see if it picks up those lovely roller marks. It may not. A little bit, not quite what I wanted. So I think what I'm going to do is do what my original plan was and draw into the back here. So I'm going to use the end of this knife, just get a bit more movement energy in there. Okay, so we've got quite a bit more movement there. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is add just quite a painterly mark here onto this one, because it's kind of suggesting that there is some sunlight coming through there, and I just want to exaggerate that basically and really make it look like there is some sunlight coming through. So I'm not going to roll this ink out. I'm just going to kind of almost paint it onto my surface here. Just trying to get the right. So you don't need much because you're not rolling it out thin. You only need a little bit of ink. Curving that round a bit. So just so you can see that, that's what the ink is. Okay. And then I've got to try and place that, or this, exactly in the right place, which is the tricky bit. Okay, let's try that. So I'm just kind of gently lowering it down. Okay, and then I'm just going to use my hand to start with to press on the back to pick up the ink. Okay, that has picked up the ink. And it basically, yeah, it kind of looks like there is some sunlight coming through, and I quite like that. So I'm also going to use that bit of ink, what's left of it, I think on this one as well. I'm going to add just a bit more brightness to this area here, again, because it just sort of suggests some sunlight poking through the rain and the clouds. Now, this is a ghost print, so I haven't put any more on, so it may be that this is not enough. Let's just see. Really going to have a go at it, trying to get it onto my paper. Okay, a little bit, yeah, I think that's probably enough. Now, in actual fact, I think there might just be a little bit too much on this one, so I'm just going to take a little bit off, and you can do this if you need to for anything where it's gone a bit too much for you, a bit too much ink. Just lay some tissue or thin paper over the top and kind of press onto it and peel away. So essentially you're taking a print onto your tissue paper, but it takes a bit of the ink off. It won't take it all off, so if you've made a really big boo-boo, then it's not going to work, but that has just lessened it a tad. So I'm going to roll some ink onto this one here again. I don't really like this. What's happened is the ink has sort of caught on all the little wrinkles of the tissue paper collage that I put on it. It's not working for me so well. So I'm going to try and roll on some colour. This is the same colour I've just used for the sort of sunlight on the other pieces. And I've just got a roller full of that colour. And I am just going to try and... I don't want to cover up... These are rather nice, these little marks on the tissue paper here. I don't want to cover those up, but I do want to cover up some of this darkness here. There we go. We've got some nice roller marks going on there, so I'm going to exaggerate those. Okay. Right, I quite like that. So I'm going to leave it. It's knowing when to stop is the key. So I like this transition from the dark through the light to the yellow. So this is what I've ended up with at the end of the session. We've got this one here, which has had a bit of monoprint on it. This one, which has this collage and the sunlight coming through. And very similar on this one as well, actually, just different colours. And then the other one that I worked on is this one here. Just got this little bit of subtle collage at the bottom, and again, this will be worked on probably a little bit further, but that's where I've got to so far.